What if I told you that right now you could create cinema quality scenes from your imagination without a camera, crew, or $1 million budget? Just 8 to 12 months ago, this was impossible. But today, this is all created with AI. And the very best part, it's getting better every single month, if not every single week, it seems. What's up, everyone? Paul Donis Maximus here. Welcome to the AI Filmmaking Advantage. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to get started with AI filmmaking, even if you've never touched an AI tool before. Here's the thing. We're living through the biggest revolution in filmmaking since the jump from film to digital. Every single day, it seems, AI tools are getting more powerful, more precise, and more mind-blowing. Some of the scenes that you're seeing on your screen right now, a year ago, they would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce if you hired a VFX studio. Now, you can create them from your laptop without ever leaving your home. But here's what most people don't realize. The real opportunity in AI filmmaking isn't just in making cool images. It's in being off the bench, in the game, and one of the first to master these tools professionally. It's interesting that I get a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking on my channel in the comments from people who are suggesting all of these things that I should have done. And from everything that I can gather from their comments, they themselves are not actually doing anything with AI filmmaking. So again, the real opportunity is not spectating from the sidelines, but actually being in the game and being a pioneer in AI filmmaking and learning how to master these tools professionally. While everyone else is still trying to figure out basic prompts, you could be creating cinema quality content that makes jaws drop. And that's exactly why I created the AI Cinematographer's Midjourney Playbook. It's a complete system that takes you from a complete beginner to learning how to direct AI like a pro in literally 24 hours or less. In this exclusive upcoming preview from the training itself, I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite techniques from the course, how to take a simple Midjourney prompt and transform it into a scene that looks like it costs millions of dollars to produce. This is the exact same process that I use in my own AI filmmaking productions, and today I'm sharing with you what I'm actually sharing with my students in the course. So with that said, let's dive right in and create some AI cinematic magic. So I'm recording this particular lesson based on some of the initial feedback that I've gotten from a lot of you who have already enrolled in the course. And that is the reason why I do courses the way I do, because doing an initial launch like this, a beta launch, as you guys are coming in, you're going through the material, you're checking out the training guides, and you're giving me feedback about some of the things that you need in order to be successful with the course. And as part of that, one of the things that I made the mistake of is assuming that everyone that was coming into the course was at the same level that I currently am, and I'll admit that was a bit of a blind spot. For instance, one of you hit me up and said, "Hey Paul Donis, glad to be a part of the training, ready to get started, but where's the link to Midjourney?" And when I got that question, I was like, whoa. See, I had falsely assumed that anyone who was enrolling in this training was already using Midjourney, because as the training is entitled, the AI Cinematographer's Midjourney Playbook, but for some reason, I completely missed the fact that, hey, there may be people who are interested in Midjourney, but have not yet gotten started with Midjourney. And again, I was grateful for that question because I went here and added it to the beginning of the guide to say, hey, look, if you currently do not have a Midjourney account, here's the link to sign up. Another question I had recently gotten on the YouTube channel was someone who left a comment. They said, hey, I'm trying to use Craya to create videos and they're coming out looking monstrous. Do you have any tips on how to create videos with Craya? And so after reading the comment, I responded, I said, well, Craya itself doesn't have a video model, but Craya does have multiple video models within Craya itself. Which particular video model is giving you trouble? And after some time, that person came back and they said Flux. Now, a good majority of you who already have experience with some form of AI generations probably already understood why that question was a bit confusing, because as I responded to that person in the comments, Flux is just an image generator. So at that point, I just told the person, hey, what you're wanting to do is literally just go into Craya, click on the Generate tab, then click on the Video tab, And from there, you're going to want to select one of the many video generation models that they have, all of which are not Craya. And the person actually thanked me and let me know that they're actually very new to generative AI. And so it wasn't really their fault that they didn't know how all of this stuff pieces together. And so that's why I actually decided to make this particular lesson just for anyone who's very new to generative AI, so that you really understand the flow of how all of this works. I'm stepping back and I'm putting myself in the mindset of not assuming anything. And this particular lesson is basically just to demystify the entire process. It's actually not a very complicated process. And this is going to allow you to approach the topic of generative AI with a lot more confidence. So let's just start from the top. As this course implies, we're going to be using Midjourney, even though in the Airtable database, I am giving you Flux and Mystic prompts. But again, because as you can see right here, all of these beautiful photos that you can generate within Midjourney that you basically can't do anywhere else. I mean, Flux, it's great. Mystic is great, but you just cannot get the level of detail that you can with Midjourney. I'm sorry. But anyway, as beautiful as these images are right here that you see on my screen, that's not really going to help you out in terms of what you actually need in order to make cinematic narrative films. For starters, outside of having a general idea or a theme of what you want your cinematic images to look like, there are two things you're going to need within Midjourney. Number one is a prompt, obviously. As you can see right here, we have a prompt that I actually got the idea from when somebody made a comment about what would it look like if you actually took something Stephen King wrote and put it as a prompt. And I responded to that person, I think it'd actually be cooler if you gave the LLM the persona of Stephen King. And again, not to confuse you, basically, if you give a chat within an LLM a persona, then throughout that chat, it's going to act like the person that you tell it to act like. So for instance, right here within Chat LLM, which is just a LLM aggregator, meaning it has lots of different LLMs within their particular app. If you're interested in this, I'll put the link to my invite code so that you can check this out. But basically, we're using GPT-4o, which you could also use just within ChatGPT itself. You could come here and select GPT-4o. But what this particular app does that I'm using is that whenever you ask it things, it routes it to the LLM it thinks that's the best for this particular task. So I asked it, are you familiar with Stephen King? And it came back with yes, and it talks about some of the things that he's authored and that he's referred to as the king of horror and things like that. And so then what I said was to give me a prompt using the persona of him that describes something evil. So basically I'm telling ChatGPT to turn into Stephen King and give me a prompt as if it was Stephen King writing this. Now, this is kind of dirty prompting. I would actually make a project and have it much more thorough, but I just wanted to test something out. And again, I don't want this to get too involved into personas. I don't want you guys to get too confused about what I'm talking about. I only wanted to give you an idea of where that prompt came from. It gave me this prompt right here, but what I needed to happen is for it to put it in the standard prompt format that I give you within the training. And for that, I have a project set up specifically within Claude AI, again, which is probably also confusing for you, but don't worry. I plan to make a GPT that's going to assist you guys with making prompts so that you don't have to even think about it. And with all that said, we're back to here to where the prompt turned out like this because I needed it to be formatted for Midjourney, and this is the image that it got. Long story short, the first two things you would need in order to get any particular use out of Midjourney is you need to have a prompt. Actually, three things. You need to have an idea of what you want. Then you would need to get a prompt. And again, make sure you go through the guide itself so that you understand how we're actually prompting Midjourney. So number one, an idea of what you need. Number two, the prompt. And number three, you need to make sure all of your outputs are 16:9 because that is what the format needs to be for your films. 16:9 is basically widescreen. Pretty much if you're watching YouTube and you see the little gear wheel and it says 1080p, that would be the resolution of 16:9, which is 1920 by 1080p. 3840 by 2160 is 4K, but most of the video generation models as of right now can only do about 720 or 1080p. And literally all you would do for this is before you run your prompt, you'd come into Midjourney Midjourney, you'd make sure it's on the landscape mode, and then you would just drag this slider over to 16:9, and you would have the correct aspect ratio that you need for your cinematic films. As far as what all these other gears do over here, again, I explain it very much in detail in the guide. Make sure you check out that, and there'll likely be video training with me showing you various examples of what happens when you play with these sliders throughout this interface. So once you drop your prompt in here, and it's going to inherit all of the settings that you have here, you would then hit this button right here to generate, and what will happen is that you'll get multiple variations of your prompt. And then what you'd have to decide is if you like what you see and you select one. I'm very particular to this particular image right here, or if you tell it to rerun and try again. Now we'll get into the mechanics of all of this in a future lesson in terms of rerunning your prompt, changing up your prompt a bit, or if you vary it subtly or you vary it strongly. Again, I like the way this image came out right here, so we're going to go ahead and continue on with this particular image. What you then want to do once you actually settle on your image is the following. If you're not using something like Freepik or Craya, which have their own upscalers, you would then want to click upscale subtly or upscale creatively, because what we're doing is we're trying to get the sharpest resolution that we can so that when we take it over to the video generator to actually animate this, it's going to give it that very detailed, pristine look. Now, that's only if you aren't using an upscaler that's a little bit more badass. Again, as one of the recommended tools that I recommend that you have in this training is Freepik, and I'm going to show you why that is in just a second. But what we'll do before we jump over to Freepik is I'll click upscale subtle, and I'll also click upscale creative so that you see what that looks like. But what I'm going to be doing is downloading this image. I'm going to be taking this raw image right here without any upscaling, and I'm going to take that over to Freepik. Now, these images have finished upscaling within Midjourney, and as you can see, this one says upscale S, which is subtle, and upscale C, creative, which is the two buttons that we clicked on previously. And kind of what you can see going on right here is the difference between the two images. For the creative image up here, it added a little bit more fullness to the tree itself. And one of the other things that you'll notice, as you can see from the original image, there's either a tree or another shadowy figure in the fog in the distance, which stays true within the subtle upscale, but in the creative upscale, it's completely disappeared. And what I'm going to do is click into this one. Okay, and it looks like it's actually just a small tree. And this is what it looks like with a subtle upscale. And this is what the creative upscale version looks like, which looks like it actually put a bell within this shadowy figure's hand. And as you can see, just jumping back and forth between the versions, the trees look very different. And that's really all there is to it in terms of upscaling your image within Midjourney. Again, the goal is to make the image look much more detailed from the original image, which is in turn going to make your video generation look just as good. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this prompt and I'm going to take it over to Freepik with me, and I'm going to show you why that is right now. And so now we're in Freepik, and we're going to be upscaling the image using the Freepik upscaler, which I've said many times in the past. It is the exact same upscaler as the Magnific AI upscaler because Freepik acquired Magnific AI in early 2024. And this is basically what I'm talking about. This is Magnific AI. This is their upscaler. Hands down, it is the best upscaler on the market, and this is about $39 per month if you were to use it standalone, and they also give you access to the Mystic image generation model. But if you are subscribed to Freepik, and again, because Freepik acquired Magnific AI, when you upscale your images here, you are using the exact same upscaler. So hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click browse files, and I'm going to find the image that I downloaded from Midjourney, the one that I did not upscale, and I'm going to bring it in over here in Freepik. And when you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to end up in this little interface, and what you want to look for is the upscale feature. When you click that, this is where things get a bit jiggy. Now, if you want the image to remain as close to this as possible, what you'd want to do is to upscale using either 2K or 4K resolution to preserve this look. But what I like to do, because I found that it just looks a lot more interesting, is I like to use either the subtle imagination, and that is what they call the strength of their upscales right here. They call it imagination, and if you click this bubble right here, it tells you what it does. It enables the AI to add realistic details, though it may diverge from from the original image. So again, if you say none and you keep it at 2K or 4K, it's going to be as close to this as possible, while upscaling the image and making it look more detailed. But as it says, higher values enhance the AI's creativity, and again, subtle does that, vivid does that, wild does that, and you can also click on custom and play around with the controls right here. But again, I'm going to try subtle first, and again, I'm going to add that prompt that I took from Midjourney, because as you see, it says right here, describe your image for better results, and I'm just going to give it the exact same prompt, and then I'm going to hit upscale. Now, the image has finished upscaling with the subtle feature, and what you can do is you can see the before and after of your upscales. And immediately you'll see the differences in the before and after. You see that the grass is much more lush, the sun is much more brighter through that fog. And again, we can see that if we go over here, it's kind of muted, but if you pull it back here, it's a lot more brighter. And again, the details of the trees change as well. That is what it looks like with the subtle feature. But what I like to also do is to get an idea of what this looks like with the wild upscale imagination. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And after a little bit, the wild imagination has generated, and this is what it looks like. The before, which was the original, and the after, and compare that to the subtle upscale versus the wild upscale. I tend to favor the subtle one because the subtle one looks much more mysterious. Once you start getting to right here, you can see more details of the robe, and it actually looks like just a person that's wearing sort of a robe with a hood as opposed to a ghastly figure. This almost looks like the figure of death right here. And again, this one looks a lot more haunting because again, there's a mystery to this figure right here. It doesn't actually look like a person, but once you come over to something like this, then you'd almost be like, okay, it's just a dude with a hood wearing a robe wandering around in the field in the fog. Not a lot of mystery going on with this other than maybe like there's this glow right here. And again, that's just probably part of the AI hallucinating. But again, you'd want to play with that to see how this all turns out. And you may decide, okay, you know what? I liked how this looks initially. And what you just do is, and you could use the prompt or not, it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure the AI understands what I'm trying to go for. And if I wanted to keep this image very similar to how it looks right now, I would click none and I would either click the 2K or the 4K. And why not? Let's go ahead and go with the highest resolution possible. We're going to go with a 4K resolution upscale, and they don't even charge you for the 2K or the 4K, so just keep that in mind in terms of Freepik. So I'm going to go ahead and upscale this, and this is what the 4K upscale looks like. It looks a lot more foggy, and if we compare it to the original image, it still captures the initial look of what the AI came up with in Midjourney. So now you've gotten your image from Midjourney and you've upscaled your image either in Midjourney or Freepik. Now it's time to animate the actual image. Now if we wanted to, we could use Freepik to go ahead and turn this into a video, and I probably will, just because whether I do that here or if I do it in Kling, which is what I would prefer, it's going to turn out to be the exact same. And the way you would do that is to make sure that you're pointing to the image that you actually want to animate, and I'm going to click this right here where it says reuse image as, and I'm going to click video. Now what Freepik likes to do is to suggest the prompt, but what I've found is that there is such a thing as over prompting, and I really don't need such a long prompt like this. I'm literally going to take what I took from Midjourney and I'm going to trim it down dramatically. I'm going to say a mysterious figure in the mist moves slowly into the distance. I didn't really think of any prompt prior to this. I'm just doing it off the top of my head to see what happens. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say tracking shot, which means that the camera is going to follow this mysterious figure as it moves slowly into the distance. And maybe I just say something like towards, so that it's not as confusing for the AI, because you know what you say and how you say things to the AI can trip it up. I'm going to copy this in case something happens to where we get screwed up and it takes me away from that. And I'm going to select the Kling 1.6 standard model. And so here we've got Kling 1.6 selected, and it's going to be selected as custom, because if you select any of these other tabs, Freepik is going to assume you want to use their video model. We've got our prompt right here. We're going to do it for 5 seconds. Let me click this right here to see what that is. Oh, check that out. Freepik allows you to add in effects without having to actually put in the camera direction. So let's try that out. Let's see if it still stays with Kling if I select this. If it unselects it, then that means I can't use it. So let's try push in, because that's exactly what we want it to do. So we're going to say the camera tells it to push in on a mysterious figure in the mist as it moves slowly towards the distance. 5 seconds, 16:9. Let's go ahead and generate this. And what I like to do is generate 2 versions just in case the initial version is not all that great. So I'm going to click the generate button again. And actually, let's do one more thing. As we know, with Kling 1.6, you can generate videos without having to add a prompt, unlike their new elements feature. So let's go ahead and generate a version. Oops, let me shut up. Apparently you can't within Freepik. I know you can within Kling, but I guess Freepik wants a prompt and will not let you run the generation without a prompt. So let's just wait for these 2 to generate to see how they turn out. Okay, so these are our generations, and if you remember just a little bit ago, we thought that Freepik would use those built-in camera effects that they told us they had. You see push in right here and push in right here, but as you can see, that did not happen, and with the other image that we generated, that did not happen either. And that is simply because camera movements are not available within Kling 1.6. If we go to their website, we see that camera movement currently unavailable on Kling 1.6. If you wanted to use camera movement, you would have to switch over to Kling 1.5. I thought that Freepik had some kind of secret sauce that would allow you to override that and maybe put in their camera movements, which would have been pretty dope. But again, that did not happen. So what I did was I generated this twice and I added the prompts myself. This one says tracking shot of a mysterious figure in the mist, and I see that that was kind of crazy. It should say tracking shot of a mysterious figure in the mist moving slowly towards the distance, but it still did what we needed it to do. As you can see, let's play this again. So it does track with this mysterious figure as it moves toward the distance. But what I noticed is that all of these generations have this hallucination going on right here. As you can see from the original image, that is not present. There's no bright light off in the distance. But in pretty much every one of these generations, that bright light shows up in the distance, and that's kind of crazy. But those are some of the things that you'll run into, so you'd have to do one or two things. You could run the generations a few more times to see if that goes away, or you would probably just have to try another image altogether. Because again, if all of these are doing that to where they've got that bright light in the distance, then it's going to likely show up in all of them. And as I'm going to show you in this last one right here, this prompt says the camera pushes in as a mysterious figure in the mist moves slowly towards the distance. And as you can see, it's doing exactly that. But again, that bright light shows up in the distance. And if that's not something that you wanted in your shot, then this would end up being a completely unusable shot for your needs. And one other thing that I'll show you very quickly is, again, if you didn't want to use any of the video generators within Freepik, if you want to actually go to Kling, or if you wanted to go to Minimax and run the generations there, then you'd want to make sure that you're on the photo that you're trying to take. In this particular situation, this is the subtle upscale that we did, and we've got that highlighted. And what you do is you'd click this export button and you'd want to download it as a PNG. You wouldn't want to click the upscale button again because you've already done that. And once you've downloaded it onto your hard drive, you'd want to go over to Kling like this, and then come here and click upload, drop, or paste, and then put in your prompt here and then run a generation from Kling, which also gives you a few more parameters like negative prompting and being able to tweak the creativity settings, which I like to put mine on 7. As you can see, if you go past that, it gets kind of crazy. So 7's about a good one. And what I did notice as well is Freepik only has the standard mode, but you could take it over here to Kling and use professional mode, which may or may not show that glow that we saw in the distance. So hopefully we've demystified this process for you if you're a complete newbie and you have no idea how this generative AI stuff works. The steps are literally, you're going to want to start with an idea. You're going to then want to develop the prompt. prompt, and you're going to want to use the prompt structure that I show you within the AI Cinematographer's Midjourney Playbook guide. You take that prompt over to Midjourney or Freepik or Flux or Mystic. You run the prompt, you look at the images that are generated, you determine if you like them or if you want to rerun the prompt again, or if you want variations of the images that it gave you. You then download the image raw if you're going to be using something like Freepik's upscaler, or you upscale within Midjourney itself. Decide on the strength of the upscale that you want, and then take that image along with a slightly modified prompt that's specific for video generation, and then generate your animation and run a couple variations of that to get the best output. So once again, I hope that makes sense. That's all I've got for you in this video. Please join me in the next one.